This conference will now be recorded.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everybody. It's 8:30, Tuesday, April 30th. We're in the courthouse for a weekly meeting. It's available by YouTube also. We have an agenda in front of us. Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Approve the minutes of the April 23rd meeting. Got an update yesterday, did we?
Oh.
A chance to look it over. Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
Roll call time.
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Sydney, Jim.
Aye.
County Attorney General discussion, I believe he's not gonna be here this morning. Send over his assistant. Sheriff update.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We have a long list of things, so I'll make this quick. Contract for jail services with Worth County, the sheriff over there assures me that they are on board with the contract as it is written. So how you folks want to move forward with it today is totally up to you, but what I would like is a signature from someone here saying that you guys are also on board with it and having a start date of May 15th. That gives me time to get our signed copy to Worth County, them to sign and return to us, and then essentially it'll be put in place officially on May 15th. So I have that copy here, which is the same copy that I provided to everyone last week. However, this is an original, so.
Did Aaron look at it?
I answered Aaron's questions. So yes, he's looked at it. He hasn't said yes or no. I haven't heard anything more from him. So that's where I'm at with the county attorney.
So you want May 15th as a start date as far as
This contract,
entered into the agreement today or entered into the agreement on May 15th?
May 15th, prove it today for a May 15th start date.
Okay.
Is what I would like. That's what I'm asking for. I'll give this original to our chairman. And put it back on line. That's all I have for you guys this morning, unless you have questions for me.
No. Look good to me, and everybody went through it. It should be all right. Unless anybody has any questions, or do you have a motion to approve the contract for the jail service?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract for the jail service starting May 15th.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
Roll call, Jim.
Aye.
Sydney. Mike,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Todd.
I can wait till after the meeting, Mark, or if you're gonna sign it now, whatever you prefer. I'll wait till after, and I'll get with you then. Thank you for that. If anybody has questions here, I'll take them. Otherwise, compliments, I always like those, Stephen. All right, thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Department head discussion. Any department head problems, questions?
I have some discussion. Seems to be a lot of misinformation around about TIF dollars and what the windmill pays. And some people believe that if you don't TIF the windmills, it goes to the state of Iowa. Some people think that it goes back to the windmills, but that is not the truth either. I know Amy is here. Could you briefly explain how the taxing works for windmills?
Good morning, folks. The wind farms are locally assessed. No different than my property, your property, the grocery store, or grain millers. To put it another way, the county would not be able to TIF the wind farms if they were not locally assessed. Once the TIF areas expire, the wind farm's taxable value gets added to the tax base, and the property taxes from the wind farms get distributed in the ordinary fashion, meaning that the general and rural funds, the school, the townships, the rural fire districts, any affected taxing body will get their portion of the revenue. Folks, under no circumstances do the wind farm's property taxes go to Des Moines, and they certainly do not go back to the wind farms after the TIF has expired. Whoever says this is spreading misinformation. That's all I have.
Okay. How much is the current value on a percentage of the wind farms?
17% currently of the total valuation. So 17% is the wind farms, 17%, of the total valuation of the county.
And how long do they last?
It's a 20-year urban renewal area, so it will expire after 20 years.
So then it takes 20 years before it goes back to the tax base?
Correct. So for example, Pioneer Prairie Wind Farms, they began in 2009 and 2010. So in 2029 and 2030, their value will be added back to the tax base.
Is that the earliest?
Actually, the earliest, to be honest, is Absolute Energy, and that expires in 2028. Absolute Energy, the ethanol plant, value roughly $15 million of taxable value, will go back to the tax base in 2028.
But currently, they're collecting more revenue off the windmills than expenses. So I think it could sunset in about 4 years.
Yeah, that part you would have to ask the
Rachel,
auditor.
is that true?
So next year's predicted at 7 million roughly, a little bit above. So before we pay in May our claims for bonds, if you took that out of the picture, in 3 years, you could have enough money to pay off all your debt. If you weren't to go into more debt.
And then that money would spill over into the,
Yes, you can only
All the
collect
other
the amount that
projects.
you owe. So then that money would go back to all the entities.
basically in another 3 years, we could be out of debt.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to clear that up because I know there's a lot of misinformation out there. Okay. Because I've had a lot of people call me, email me, whatever. Want the gospel. So thank you, both of you.
Any other department head?
I'll clear up one thing from last week. I think it was misunderstood. It is not what's gonna work for my office. It's you guys following the Iowa code with the expenses from the TIF revenue. You can't go directly from TIF for a project. It has to go, you have to pay for it somehow with those loans. So I just want to clarify, do you guys understand? It's not my office, it's the Iowa code.
Yeah, we plan on following the Iowa.
I know,
codes,
but last week it was stated that it was my office doing it. It is the Iowa code that you have to follow, not Rachel Foster's office, it's the Iowa code. Okay, thank you.
No other department head discussion, we'll go to the county engineer update.
Morning. Not a lot to discuss this morning, other than last Friday, we lost our salt shed to the wind, talked insurance. We're having an adjuster come out, but in the meantime, I called them yesterday and they allowed us to remove the metal framing so that we can get the salt protected before the next storm came through. So that's what the guys are doing this morning before we get any more wind. We're gonna try to get that covered. So we purchased a silage cover. The guy's on the way to get it now, so we can get everything covered up, protected from more rain. So that's the biggest thing we've got going on right now, other than trying to maintain roads between rainstorms. So
Is that framework kind of under tension? Because
it's tweaked and twisted. It's gone.
I mean, is it safe for them to be.
We yanked it all off.
You just pulled it.
Yep, we took the little mini yesterday and pulled it all off. It all came in one, well, it didn't all come, but it mostly came in one big chunk, and pulled it off to the side, and gonna get Leroy to come with their semi-trailer, and just load it right there and get rid of it, so. But cleared it with the insurance company before we did any damage, or before they could come look at it, I know, but we took the pictures. I think they can see what's going on. But I've got one quote back already for a new facility, and then I've got one more coming probably today to get a replacement. It's gonna be substantial.
Gonna do the wood on the bottom, the whole thing?
We're gonna have to redo all that. That stuff's been buried long enough. I think the original construction was 1998, so it's been there a while. And after removing some of the metal structures, some of the wood posts were hollow, so they're pretty rotten, so we have to redo it. So probably go with a concrete type sidewall this time, but the quotes are pushing 200,000. First one was built, the frame and the cover itself was only 18,000, and they wouldn't build it for that for me. I asked, so. So it's amazing how expensive it got in that amount of time, so.
I'm sure the insurance ain't replacement cost.
Well, I don't know for sure, but
I think we had insured for 240.
yeah, it was 240 insured,
okay.
so, which is probably good because it might not creep that high. But I had budgeted to maybe replace the top, but Mother Nature took care of it for us, so.
Insurance should catch most of that.
It should.
I think all of it, huh? Yeah, what do you got?
So anyway, we're in protection mode for now until we get some quotes and find a plan of attack. So that's all I've got for you.
It's full.
It's full and it hasn't all washed away. All right.
Is there another item?
There's another item.
Oh, yeah, you guys wanna,
Vote on the 10-hour days.
yep, Union, voted, they had a majority vote for 10-hour days. Their vote was 10-hour days between Labor Day and Memorial Day again. So leave it up to the board to decide whether the county, as it states, the county decides, so. Your contract is with you guys have the contract with the union, so.
Last time we kind of talked about it as far as, the importance of 5-day coverage on the roads. Has anything changed since that discussion a year ago?
I guess I don't think it has. I mean, we still maintain the roads every day like we're supposed to. I don't know if you guys got other opinions. I'd be willing to hear them, but.
I'm still for being there 5 days a week.
Probably because if you can't determine the rain and.
Right. It may be that, on certain days too, we could always adjust the start and stop time. If it's one of those hotter days or whatever, we can maybe start earlier and end earlier, but all in all, if you guys decide whether we're gonna go 10-hour days or not. And that's just for the employee, the shop guys, not the office, so.
I like the 5-day coverage.
Agreed.
So we can either have a motion and see how it goes, or not do it for lack of a motion.
Ask for the motion.
Do you have a motion for 10-hour days? I guess we're going to 5-day.
Keep the schedule as it is, and if we so choose on certain days, if it's too hot or something, we can adjust the daily hours a little bit, but for the most part, I guess we'll just keep the schedule as it is.
But isn't a union contract, the engineer has authority to adjust our hours?
I think during the day we could if we see fit. We have the authority to extend the day if we need to work a little longer, so.
Call them early for snow.
All right,
All right.
anything else? Thank you.
Rich?
Moving. Got a minute.
Minute?
Minute. Somebody else's clock says 8:45.
44.
Must be all on the same.
45.
Open the meeting, open the meeting at 8:45 for library grant. Was this published in the proper newspapers and available at the auditor's office?
Yes.
Any oral or written comments received from supervisors or auditor?
Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, I had a comment. I did.
Yes.
Yeah, I have comments. I got some letters I would like to read pertaining to this. Sent to me.
Go ahead now if you
Go
like.
ahead. Okay, well,
Were these permission to?
yeah. Well, for one, the Statesville Library Board thinks that if you gotta use TIF money to fill our budget for our library, there's something wrong with this county. I come from some of the people on the board. I have another letter from, if Mitchell County uses tax increment financing, this shorts the rural and basic funds. This says, I don't know where they got their information, it says $2.3 million of revenue per fiscal year. Who do you think makes up this difference of the shortfall of revenue? The Mitchell County taxpayers. In an article dated December 9, 2022, Iowans for Tax Relief Foundation suggested limiting percentage of a community's property tax dollar in urban renewal districts. The urban renewal areas TIF to no more than 4%. Local levying authorities have placed most of the past decade's economic growth in Mitchell County as in TIF. In 2012 was 15.2%. In 2007, 4% was in TIF. This means the county has grown economically, but that growth has not been added to the tax base. Therefore, tax base is not keeping up with inflation and increases to the local budgets. Make no mistake, TIF dollars are property tax dollars. Should property tax dollars be used to subsidize development, that would have happened anyway. It will only benefit a handful of people. I strongly urge you to look at the use of TIF as a way of providing property tax reform and relief to local taxpayers.
Who signed any of those?
Bob Morrell.
Okay.
This is just something I found in session on property taxes. By limiting property tax increases, the spending cap will create more favorable environment for economic growth and business development. Lower property taxes help attract new business and encourage investment. So we're not lowering property taxes because we're not adding to the tax base. I got one from Lisa Reserts. Tax increment financing was originally created to incentivize and rejuvenation of rundown areas. Usage of tax increment financing has morphed from its original intent, not always good for the public. When a county grants tax increment financing, the county borrows money from the bond market in the form of a tax increment financing bond. That borrowed money is then given to the developer for building a house or commercial building or industrial building. The bond and the loan and interest are paid with the developer's property taxes. Once the tax increment financing bond has been paid, the developer owns the building, even though the tax money was used to pay for the loan and the interest. This is the equivalent of a gift, a grant, or a welfare payment, explains the Iowa Sierra Club. It is my understanding that when tax increment financing is used, the tax collection on that property is split. The tax base for general tax bucket contribution on the TIF property is a property before development. So lower taxes are collected over a longer period of time, generating a reduced contribution to the general tax bucket for public services such as schools and ag extension. The county uses the property taxes on the increment portion to pay for the bond. So those taxes do not reach the general tax bucket to fund the schools, the police, the fire, the roads, and other types of public services. Although the state can divert monies to make up some of the difference for the school. That's usually just a part of what was depleted, and now state tax monies are not reaching their originally intended destination and purpose, having to be diverted to TIF coverages. Counties are now creatively using tax increment financing for public projects like libraries. The tax increment financing, in this case too, denies tax money for other jurisdictions such as schools that are supposed to receive it. For example, if wind turbines are declared to be in a TIF district, the diverted money might be used to fund roads. The schools hurt because they're not funded in the TIF arrangement, and they're
It's
not,
8:50, do we have to move on to the next one? No. Even though it's a public hearing?
these are separate letters.
No, I meant,
Oh.
the next public hearing is at 8:50 on the paper, so I didn't know if we had to move on to the next public hearing.
You have to finish this one.
For example, if wind turbines declared to be in a TIF district, the diverted money might be used to fund roads. The schools hurt because they are not funded in the TIF arrangement and are not made whole by the state and are suffering with less. What else can happen when using tax increment financing? One project can result in an unfair economic advantage to a TIF recipient as compared to competitors. Could cause a decline in bond ratings, in turn causing higher interest rate. Tax increment financing shifts the burden of tax payments onto other property tax owners who see higher property taxes to cover the general expenditures, resulting in a property tax system that is unfair to all but the beneficiaries of TIF projects. Diversion to such projects such as roads and libraries don't allow for public vote. Iowa has more tax increment financing districts than any other state in the United States, and Mitchell County ranks number 2 in the state of Iowa using tax increment financing. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Are those receiving TIF in need of TIF arrangements? Can TIF be used in a favorable program where I scratch your back and you'll scratch mine? Arrangements are made at the expense of everyone else. This is not ethically. I just hope this isn't involved. How is TIF creating overall enhancement of jobs, area improvement, economic growth with a body of people at large, or the TIF recipients are the largest beneficiaries? Will tax increment financing be used in relation to carbon dioxide pipelines already receiving accommodation, allocation, and subsidies, as well as pipeline business partners? She says, I don't support this, even as a land area for garaging construction equipment or housing workers. It's not okay to take others' land by eminent domain and then turn around and take tax bases that fund general services that are available to all. So signed, Lisa Reserves. That's probably the last one I got.
So my comment in regards to when you talked about the libraries is that the state, and I've said this a number of times and people probably have heard it, maybe they haven't. The state did a formula on us which reduced our general and rural basic levies. The 3 departments that were funding the libraries, economic development, and the fair board came out of the rural basic. What we have done with this, if this gets approved, is we've taken $306,126, I believe that is the number, out of the rural basic fund in order to fund these 3 departments. So in essence, the taxpayers are paying less because they're not funding those departments. If those departments were in the tax system, in the rural basic, they would be paying for them. So we have saved the taxpayers money in order to do that.
Does that affect the schools?
The schools get the backfill from the state.
But it's not very much. I mean, it's less.
87.5% based on $5.40. That the formula for the schools, I don't know the formula exactly, but.
And I don't know if that's changed this year or not, but I know the governor is not as proactively supporting public schools.
So I can base my view very simply. I see this as an excellent funding source for the county, and everything that gets said that why we shouldn't spend it, we are doing it for a positive county purpose. It's not that the money is getting wasted. We are doing things in the county for the public good, and if we weren't using the turbine money, the public would have to pay for these things if they happen. So I want to do positive things for the county, and I see this as a funding source to do that. That's my contention.
Well, I have another, you're on the fair board.
Correct.
And I wonder, does the fair, like through the agricultural department, have access to grants?
Yeah, Audra's working on grants every day. A lot of times, the grants, you need to know what other funding
Like
you're
match.
getting before you can complete your grants out there. And they're also going around to, which I'm not, everybody's getting glad. Pretty bad, out, you know, the
I know, yeah.
pork is not real good right now, and, you know, so they're already contributing to the fair each year, all these entities out there that the fair board goes and contacts.
So
I'm
is
just
this a
not,
match to a grant? Would the TIF funds be a match to their grant?
no,
It can't be, or it
no. We just have this fund available that, we would not be able to do these projects if we didn't fund them this way.
you couldn't use it as a match to a grant? Is that what you're saying?
Well, that would be an odder question, what grant she's filling out, and unfortunately, she was not able to be here today. She's in Rochester. Kathy?
So this is a public hearing about the library agreement, correct?
Correct.
Okay. As a public library user, thank you for being creative in continuing to fund the public libraries in the county. I was also the city clerk for 37 years, so I know how much revenue comes to, in particular, the Osage Public Library from this county fund. And I'm a city resident, so I'm paying for the library with my city taxes. This is what's coming from the rural residents, and now it's coming from TIF, if I understand the financial stream here.
If it's approved, yes.
Again, thank you for considering and being creative about a way to continue to fund libraries for rural residents.
Can I add a comment to that? We can fund the library with local option sales tax money too. Then we don't have to borrow money to fund the library.
Yeah,
money
I
is borrowed
just don't want you to kick the library.
Oh, no, I ain't kicking it. I support the libraries, but there's other means of funding them other than borrowing money to fund the libraries. The local option would cover that.
And the state constraints on your valuations this year have led you to have to make some really tough choices.
Correct. And the reason is because we had 12% growth. We've had such a high growth. That's why they cut us back.
I know.
Yeah, so they penalize us for being good, you know. So
So
we
our
had a lot of growth in
conversation
the
should
county.
be with our state legislators.
So we had a lot of growth in the county without using TIF money. So I just like us to keep going in that direction.
And TIF's not the enemy. My very
Well-
first council meeting 37 years ago was the start of Osage's TIF. So I've lived with it for 37
Oh, yeah.
years. It's not the enemy, it's also not your savior.
Right.
So you need to find that balance.
Speaking to the local option sales tax comment about this state formula is still gonna be with us for the next 3 years, I believe. And it lowered our levy rates this year. And if we get hit by the formula again, it hits the levy rate that we have to use this year, so it goes down even more. I wanna use that local option sales tax as something that we could possibly do next year if we get hit for it. So I'm kind of reluctant that pulling a lot of money out of it. I'm looking at it as something that we can actually continue to fund things adequately in the future. So I'm nervous about just hacking into it in large sums.
And will this project also be 20 years?
What?
If you use TIF for what you're planning now?
No.
She said the one for the ethanol plant and the,
No, that's TIF district. This is not that's
so
what
this is just
collected.
an annual thing?
1 year.
1 year.
Next year, we'll reevaluate on what is to be done. This is only for 1 year.
I don't think that was me.
Lowell, you had something?
Well, you just touched on what I was gonna mention about local option sales tax funds. When I was with the county, we had that. It was, at that time, it was over $500,000 a year.
It's over $1 million right now.
Okay.
So we have to
recommend that you look at that strongly to use that to fund some of these things. That's instead of borrowing money, that money is there for a purpose and it would be good to be used back with the county.
I agree with Lowell.
Getting back to our,
There's another question, Mark.
yeah, I was gonna go with the board first before we,
Oh.
somebody jumped into the audience before we finished the boards. I thought we finished the board.
Oh, okay, I guess I was done.
I had people reach out to me also, and for Todd's comment on the public's been bled already with donations, that Osage School raised $1.5 million in 2 weeks for their wrestling room and concession stand, so there seem to be people wanting to donate this stuff.
Well,
And when we had our budget meeting, Jim asked the board for the agricultural, not to go get any grants or donations, because you were gonna fund it all through the county.
No, I don't believe I said that. I asked them to get grants. I asked them what kind of grants they were looking at. I didn't say that.
No, he did not. He
No.
said, go and do your grants.
There's no way I would ever tell any entity not to go get a grant. I couldn't
But
do that.
he suggested that we
I have a
would.
question. Why are we talking about fair board? And
Okay, we'll wait till we get to the
Can
fair board.
Let's do the library right now.
Right.
I think that's what we need to stay on. I'm
But the
sorry.
library can be, we're not gonna cut the funds for the library, because we have it at local options, so they're gonna be funded, it's just where we're gonna take the money from. Right? Be like Lowell to take it through our local option and not borrow money to do our budget item. Mr. Horgan, or excuse me, Todd, did you have anything, any comment?
well, I just want to first of all comment on that school. We had one donor with $1 million and one donor with 250,000. So that's 2 donors.
When we get to that.
So anyway, I had none.
Mr. Horgan,
Yes, I have a comment,
yes.
what it's worth. The board of supervisors sit here and it's your responsibility to see to the needs of all the citizens of Metro County. And new ideas come up every day. People want to start new businesses. There's all kinds of things going on day to day. And if you want to collect all the taxes and put it back into the general levy, and then you're also going to be responsible seeing that all of these citizens get what they need when they need it. TIF is a good tool to help build economic development and meet the needs of the citizens. It's not the end all to taxation and to how you should spend your money, but it is a better tool to work with than a board of supervisors. Get your stuff out there. Make yourself pretty responsible to handle all the needs of 10,000 people.
Greg, do you have something?
What's that TIF money cost? What's the cost? Interest.
Depends on where you get it from. No one has looked, they have not looked out to.
Nobody knows?
Nope. Well, I mean, you have to get a loan and whatever they offer as an interest, but no one has looked to.
Yeah, there's current loans out there, but they're at a lot lower rate than what you're gonna get now, definitely. I don't know what you'd get now. Up 7%, 8%, I don't know.
I haven't looked.
I mean, you get 5% on a CD at a bank, so.
Unless it's changed, you can also self-fund. Which means you could borrow from local option and pay that back. You owe yourself, you're owing it at 0 rate. All you're doing is establishing that you're going to use those TIF funds for that. Now, maybe that's changed because I haven't audited a city or a county in 15 years, but you can self-fund and it costs you nothing. It's just a matter of where does that
But we're
property
getting
tax
interest
go?
on our TIF.
What?
We're getting interest on our local option, probably 5%.
Okay, then you're giving up your 5% that
You
you're,
give up your 5%, so then it's,
I'm just saying, there are other ways of doing it without going out and paying a large interest rate.
I think individual board members have looked at different options as far as what you're explaining. But there's really, unless this if this doesn't pass, there's no purpose in doing that. So I guess that's the next
I
step.
get that, but I just was feeling that the interest rate was a hang-up, and so.
Just borrowing money to fund the libraries is a hang up for me. And so is this for the library boards too.
Yes.
So what's the total amount you're talking about for this library agreement?
Libraries are 173,376, I believe.
And you'd be borrowing it for a year? As
Probably
you pay yourself back?
12 to 18 months as far as what I'm thinking.
Anyone here from the library? Anyone here from the library against what we're doing?
Thanks to the library is, that's all I know.
They're not.
When I talked to the director there, she wasn't.
She's in Haiti.
Stacy, the library.
Okay, yeah, I talked to the director and she wasn't.
Oh. Well, one of the board members was.
One of the board members.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Never
You indicated the board. You said
So the board, he said.
one of the board members.
He said.
Okay.
Any other public comment for the library board? Or, excuse me, library? Grant agreement. Nobody? Close the public hearing at 9:06. Discussion and possible action on library grant agreement. Is there a motion for?
Correct me if I have the resolution number incorrect, but I move to approve resolution number 1212-24.
Yes. That's
That's
the
correct.
last one I got.
Okay.
Got a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
Roll call, Mark,
No.
Mike,
No.
Sydney,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Motion passes. Open the public hearing for the Agricultural Society Grant Agreement at 9:07. Or excuse me, was this published in the proper newspapers and available at the auditor's office?
Yes.
Any oral or written comments received from the supervisors or auditor?
No, my comment is just basically all three of these, so with those two.
Same.
The letters I read covered it all, so.
I had people reach out to me that they didn't think we should fund the building for the fair board when they could try to get grants and donations from the public before they came and asked for a donation.
I had none.
But back to that, you see, there's two donations for the school. Who's to say there's not two people out there that would donate for the fair board building?
They've had about a year to do it.
Has the public been aware of the?
Well, I've been aware about it for over a year.
Yeah. It's just not the fair. There's 4-H, FFA, Iowa State. If you noticed, our fair has been really growing, and so the fair board members and everybody have been talking about this building for quite some time. And I've been involved, what have we been on, 3 years? 3 years, and I've been on the fair board, and it's been talked about publicly. So it's out there. Whether you're going around door knocking or putting flyers out there, no.
Any discussion from the public on the fair board?
What building are we talking about?
The swine building is, it's old and it's not very safe.
Has it been full?
Oh, yeah, we're having, we have 3 or 4 beef pens in the swine, is it in the swine?
Yes.
Sheep farm.
Sheep size.
Sheep
Yeah, it's a
side.
multi-species building.
Yeah,
Houses the poultry,
Right now,
sheep,
that's how it's being used.
poultry, sheep, goats, swine, and rabbits, and will continue to do so. And it also houses overflow from other species.
Yeah, I've been there. So that's the goal, is to separate them.
It would be one building, house all that, to get rid of that entire structure that's somewhat connected now.
Lindsay?
I just want to say that I think there's, the fair is probably one thing that brings everybody in the county together. I know that with the the Broadway, whatever they call it, being free, our kids went more than ever. And there are a lot of people donating to the fair every year, sometimes in physical stuff, a lot of times in events, keeping it free for the kids. I think that helps, but every person in the county, it's a huge advantage to all be together, just for relationships, networking, gets the ag and the town together. To me, there's nothing that speaks more that the county supervisor should support than the fair. It's truly a county project.
I don't want to, I'm not for the fair to support it, but I am, but I just don't want to do it this route.
And again, there's a lot of money that's spent in other places, and there is donor fatigue.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And I support the fair too, but I don't know about building the whole building for $770,000 when there's a bridge over by Little Cedar that's been out for 10 years and the farmers around there want to get it replaced, and there's an Iowa Select building just down the road that they would use, but, and that can't, that's what TIF money is supposed to be for, infrastructure. That hasn't been done, and can't get anywhere with it, so.
So how do you expect to pay for that bridge? At it's gonna be like 2.5.
No, it ain't gonna be, nobody's even got a price on it.
But how do you expect to pay for that when Rich has said there's literally no money?
Well,
to pay
if
for
you
it?
could do a TIF bridge would be more practical.
I mean,
There wasn't.
I
You
just
go talk to
want,
them people in your district, why don't you go talk to them and listen to them?
yeah.
Let me give them your number.
let's go back to the fair.
Anyway,
Fair
yeah,
board
I support the
building.
fair, but. I don't
They
mind
they will let Friday night out, the weather gets bad, they can go to that building. I believe they can rent space for campers. I think we've had a circus here in town in the last year. We could use that building we have a rodeo coming. There's some fair board members here. I believe they were willing to let that building be used for a lot of other things.
And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we just say this would be up to $700,000? And then, once you guys have that in place, if you go and file for more grants and you have money to back you up, the grants will most likely be able to come through more, and then you possibly would not have to take the whole $700,000. We just said up to, correct?
Right.
Fair board?
Right.
I don't remember you guys asking for the total.
I think it's in
amount.
your agreement,
Whatever
that
it is.
plans get put together. I think it was in there, right in the agreement that
Yeah.
if there's other grants available.
Yes,
It's
so,
707.
thank you for
Not to
correcting.
exceed, not to exceed.
Not to exceed. So it's not that they're not going out and doing the process and running the grant. They need some kind of stability for those grants to finish filling them out. And then once they get those grant monies, that would be a total different story.
So that it would replace the building that houses the animals now and the show arena that you're gonna use there?
Sure.
Yes.
Is it gonna, the show arena now is like an open building, would it continue to be, would it be?
It will be an open sided building or tin will be down on the sides to protect in case of some rain, I suppose. But I mean, it will still be open air for airflow through it for all
And it will be footprint and
Similar footprint and square footage, but more usable space because of the layout. Instead of having 3 individual buildings, it'll be one contiguous building. That'll be
Full clear span.
full clear span that will be able to be used, and is planned to be used for more than just the fair. Like Todd mentioned, it will be able to be used for other community events, house a large number of people, such as a Friday night out. Autumn artistry is used in the fairgrounds, it would be used for that. Many other community events could be housed in there, that if we have the space, we can use it. Another, to the point of the up to 770,000, it's a large undertaking, and without having some stability and some guarantee on it, we can't really move forward because you can't build half a building. So it has to be done. We will, the goal is to find more funding as we can. And if we can get donors to fill in, great, but like has been discussed, donor fatigue happens and it's hard to get large sums to cover the large amount. The buildings that we're replacing have been there for probably 60 to 80 years. We're looking at this as an 80+ year project. This is not a something that we're taking lightly. I plan on it being there long after I'm gone. So it needs to be done right, and done once.
And so when you said these grants are a 1 year, or the TIF money is a 1 year project, does that mean it's paid back in 1 year?
Again, there's different ways you can do it, and that has not been determined for sure yet, because we have to pass this before
Seems like a
we
large
actually do
amount to
that.
be able to do
But
that.
in my mind, we could do an internal loan with a 12 to 18 month, that has to be figured out yet.
And I can like speak to the grants, because like a lot of times people are like, we'll get a grant or go find a grant. And sometimes, there's not always grants available. Like sometimes there's always like standing community grants that are available. And, but what a lot of times people don't know is like there's no funds available. So if you don't have the funds, you're never gonna get that grant. But there's, so I think, and I've researched some, funding grants for the fair. And, there's some grants available, like I said, but there's no funds. So if you don't have the funds, you're not gonna get any money. There is like loans, but not, there's a difference between loans and grants.
Have you considered the red light, USDA loan funds that Heartland Power and Osage Municipal Utility have?
Yeah, so I've looked into the USD loan and that's what they were considering. It's just, it's very cumbersome. And working with the USDA, so I think last time I knew they were considering that. I'm not looking into the red light. I can.
But I'm thinking, so OMU in particular has about $600 and some thousand that was a pass-through from previous USDA loans, and now they can use that to loan out locally. And I don't know how much is committed at this point, but they've used it for various businesses.
I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you there's not 600,000 there because I've been helping people apply
for
for
those. Yeah, there'll be more there as daycare pays off the loan that we have.
But in the last 5 years, there was 150,000 that came to my company, and there was another, I don't want to speak wrong, but I want to say 100,000 that went to Tres Amigos. And there was another 100,000, and I can't remember off the top of my head who we helped apply for that one for. So that money is being used. Anybody who doesn't know what that money is, it's money that was basically, as I understand it, given by the federal government, but you have to pay it back. But once it's paid back, it can now be used on the next economic development item that you're doing.
Yes.
And I will tell you, as somebody who owns a Main Street building and put $600,000 into a Main Street building that I couldn't sell today for $300,000 if my life depended on it. If you don't have some financing coming from somewhere else, you can't do those projects. Because my bank looked at me when I did it and said, you understand you cannot sell this for what you owe against it. Yes, I understand that. I need a building that does my purpose. And so I'm not saying that there aren't those funds available, but I am telling you that there are, since I found out that they were available and usable, our office has been actively using that fund to fund economic development in Osage. I'll just put it that way.
And Heartland Power has several funds like that.
Heartland Power to last, I was told they would not fund in Osage Park. You have to be out, and I've used that one too, but those have to be outside of the city limits of Osage. So I don't know if the Fair Board will qualify or not, because it is not outside the city of Osage.
It's public ground.
Yep. So, probably more information than you wanted about that fund, but that's what I know about it.
So question, if the funding is approved, what's the timeline? After the fair this year? And the building would be,
The week after the fair, the building's coming down.
and
And for the record, it's the Ag Society owns, that is not public ground.
Yeah.
the land itself?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
But yes, it would, the project would happen right after fair.
I got one last remark. I said I'll support the fair, but not the total building because of other things in the county that ain't being taken care of, like the bridge in particular on Primrose, which I get a lot of heat on that. You know, county's got money for everything else. Let's fix this bridge, you know, so. But I do support the fair and I would support, like I said, got local option, could give you a donation out of that also. So.
Any other public comment? Agricultural. That will close at 9:22. Discussion and possible action on agricultural society grant agreement. The resolution 1213-24.
Move to approve resolutions 1213-24.
Have a motion, is there a second? Second. Any other discussion?
Roll call, Sydney?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Mark?
No?
Jim?
Aye.
Mike?
No.
Motion passes. Public hearing on MCEDC grant. We'll open the public hearing at 9:23. Was this published in the proper newspapers and available at the auditor's office?
Yes.
Any oral or written comments received from supervisors or auditor?
Same as before.
Same.
Yes.
I had none.
Any discussion from the public? Yes.
So how much money are we talking, and is it like their entire budget?
Yeah.
97,750.
And there should be no question about what you're gonna do, how you're gonna do this.
$97,750.
I'm on the Osage Daycare Board, and Jenny and Tracy have been phenomenal over the last 10 months with the childcare grants that we have, or that they have received on behalf of all of the daycares countywide, including Riceville, for wage enhancements, and they've been very active in the community, approaching businesses whose employees need childcare so they can show up to work each day. And, yeah, and that's just a small, it's taken up a whole ton of their time. And that's just one aspect of their job. So just a personal referral on that the Economic Development Office is critical to this county, and they're doing a phenomenal job.
I would agree with you on the daycare thing. My wife and I also contributed to that. But I don't see using, it's a budget item, we budgeted before, paid for it through our budget, and now we're gonna borrow money to use it for their department. That's what I don't agree with.
I don't agree with it either, for those reasons. You know, it's a budget item. Always has been.
We've been able to afford it before through our budget, and for some reason, we can't.
Thank the state for that.
And again, we have local option that we could.
I will tell you, I want you to think very strongly about supporting economic development anyway. I sit on the Osage Economic Board. We work hand in hand with Mitchell County. The last set of jobs that was brought to Mitchell County, the state of Iowa was astounded at the fact that Mitchell County Economic Development, Osage Economic Development, and a couple of the small town economic developments around us could all work together and play nice and get a company here because we could work together and make it happen. I mean, we were originally, the business that we got was originally looking at Osage, but we actually ended up putting them outside of Osage. And yet we still all worked together and made it happen. Economic development is crucial. Look around us. This is why our town is growing and others are dying. I mean, I own a building in Osage. I also happen to own one in Nashua. If you want to talk about day and night difference, Osage has spent time and money and effort on economic development. Nashua has not. I salvaged the building down there, and it may someday be the only one left on Main Street. I really feel that way. The one in Osage, I have no doubt that in 30 years, when I'm gone from this earth, somebody's still going to be in that building and is still going to be there. And most of Main Street's going to be there because people are actively pursuing doing economic development. I am not from this town, I get that, but I've been here 35 years. It is very imperative that we put money into economic development and that we make things grow. It not only helps bringing jobs in, my business alone has more than doubled in size. It's almost tripled in size. We went from being a small little CPA firm in the middle of nowhere. I now have people who drive 100 miles to come see us. And that is not an accident. It is because we have worked to build business here, where we're at. You know, the old plant where you're, grow where you're planted. And I really feel strongly that we need to, as a business, or as a county, support the businesses here and help them grow, and that's what economic development does. Whether it's through daycare, whether it's through helping individual businesses. I've heard a lot said about, well, they all would have come here anyway. I will tell you, no, they wouldn't. Maybe the windmills would have been here anyway, but I will tell you, the factory southeast of town would not have been here without economic development. I mean, we worked for 5 years on that thing. That's what it took to get here. Now, I know some people don't like that place, but I'm just saying. And other businesses in this town are the same way. The reason they're here is because they've been courted and time has been spent on Wallace Tops, Osage Manufacturing, Fox River, all of those get help and support from Mitchell County Economic Development and Osage Economic Development. And without them, I'm not saying that they would leave tomorrow, but I am saying we wouldn't grow and we wouldn't have a bunch of new businesses. New businesses don't just walk into a town. Let me just finish it that way. I've talked too much, I'll shut up.
Thank you for that, because that's all, I believe in everything you just said. And you need to invest in yourself in order to make things happen. Things don't just happen on their own. There are people that do things to make things happen. Whether
And
people
most of the
realize it
time,
or
you do not see any of that. It's all done, it has to be done very quietly. I mean, I knew there was a factory looking at us 5 years before they came. I did not know who they were until the public announcement was made, because you have to work very quietly behind the scenes, because that same factory was going to Mason City. 3 months before they announced they were coming here, it was quietly announced in Mason City that they were coming to Mason City, and it got leaked to the press, and we ended up with them. That's why you have to have an economic development who can work quietly behind the scenes and make things happen. And you never even know they've been there if you aren't a part of those groups. And anybody that wants to become a part, let me tell you, we're always looking for help. It's not that this is a closed club, but economic development is very, very crucial. And it's probably more crucial in Iowa than in a lot of places, because people don't just automatically say, oh, I think I'll move a new plant to Iowa. They move to Iowa because somebody has worked with them, they have incentives, and they have made connections that make them want to come here.
You do my taxes, and once a year, we talk about stuff. And you said something one time that an entity is either going one of two directions. They're going backwards or they're going forward. There's no middle, because if you're just maintaining the middle, you're going backwards.
You're going backwards.
There's only two directions. So people that just think it's just gonna happen on its own, you're going backwards. That's a simple fact.
If you're growing, it's because you're planning, you're doing everything you can to make that growth happen.
Correct.
I'd come, but I can't keep a secret.
Yeah.
I'd come join you, but I probably can't keep a secret. Yes, Dave?
I just happened to go through Nashville in the last 2-3 months, and I couldn't believe how run down Nashville was. It was absolutely terrible. And I was really surprised. I was shocked.
There's 4 buildings that are of value, and the rest of it, if a windstorm hit it, nobody would miss it.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I have a business there, and I've had it there for 35 years. And it's a good business, but it's the way it is. And I will tell you, when I bought my building down there, I went to the city and said, do you have any incentives? Do you have any low interest loans? Do you have anything to help me rejuvenate this building that the roof is leaking and the sidewall's falling in and da-da-da-da-da? And I was told no. And so I self-funded it and did it at a lesser degree than I wanted to do, but it's what I could self-fund. In Osage, when I went to them and said, I have a building that I'd like to rejuvenate, the roof is falling in, it's leaking, da-da-da-da-da, what can I do? I got a list of these are things to look at, some of which did not work for me, some of which did. Like I said, I put $650,000 into a building that's worth less than $300,000. I know that. I know that's what I did. Does it make good economic sense? Yes. If you're looking for a good place in Osage, there was no other place in Osage that I could have bought that would have done what this office is doing for us. So did it make sense? Yes. In financial sense? Yes. But it happened because there was financial aid available. Most of it was loans. Most of it I'm paying back. I'm still paying back. It's okay. But if you don't have any of that, and if you don't have an economic development person who's helping you through that, I would not have done that building. And that building would now be in a shape where it probably would need to be torn down, because literally it was raining inside the building when we bought it.
Yep, yep,
Anyway,
I just had a question. Is the economic development already in the budget
yes,
at the 97,000?
yes.
So why,
Not,
The way the budget sits right now, it's not in there.
because the budget starts now in
In July.
June, so it didn't get added in?
So when this process began, they opted to have it go through the TIF fund. So then it was pulled from the general basic fund.
So it could still be added back, or?
You could add it back, it would just take money away from like the carryover balance. Or you could use local option.
Local option.
That'd be the other option.
There is money there, it's just not in the budget.
And remind you, this is 1 year. We'll reevaluate this on next year's budget.
For all of these, so you're looking at 770,000, and was it 170 for the libraries?
Correct.
And then
173.
97, so all three of those will be, so if you give them the money now, they have the money, so in a year, what would happen?
The building would not be in the next one, because if we fund it this year, then the building would not be part of that agreement for next year. It would just be we would just look at their department request.
Oh. So this money would already be allocated out?
If approved, yes.
because every year we give 35,000 to the fair board.
And that comes off that 770?
No, it's
That's
on
in
top of it.
addition.
It comes off the 805. 35,770 is $805,000. So that's what the agreement is for $805,000. 770,000 would come out of it if there's a new agreement next year, because the building would have been funded with this one.
Okay.
And a lot of
But if
that,
they get other money from someplace else, that also offset it?
It's a
like
not
Cindy
to,
said.
it's a not to exceed amount.
that 35,000, a lot of that gets paid out because they have to pay for the carnival way ahead of time, pay for the events way ahead of time.
Seems like that's kind of low, actually.
They make it
I mean,
work.
they charge admission and stuff.
Any other comments for,
Yeah, I support economic development, but not in funding it this way. Fund it out of the local option if needed, or out of the same budget it came out of last year. But would not fund it in this direction.
If it came from does it come from the taxes that all of us pay, or just the rural?
All of us.
All of us?
Yeah.
So then that $97,000, if you wanted to do it out of your general levy.
Yeah.
Would take away from
The carryover balance,
one of the other.
the
Okay.
carryover balance, but
Do
we
you
could,
feel like you have a sufficient carryover balance?
well, we got the local option with over $1 million in that we could pacify the budget, if the carryover if we needed.
Less than 10%.
I'll answer your question. No.
Yeah.
We're at the low end of what our carryover balance would be right now.
Could be, or should be, or what sort of
What it's at right
percentage?
now without having that in the expenditures. So that's why it was brought up to move it, because of how they adjusted the levy.
Yeah.
Taking a couple of those amounts out, and get at a 25% carryover.
And you'd like that to be.
Usually between 25, 30.
So you got a cash flow till taxes come out in October.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But we could take it out of local option also for the budget.
right,
Correct, Rachel?
How much is in the local option? Is that,
It's over $1 million.
Yeah, it's over $1 million.
So there's plenty there to float all this.
Some of it's obligated. I believe there's about 175,000 obligated, I think. So it's probably what's available is in the 900,000 range. But
Last week it was 1,164,518.20, and yesterday we received like 60,000.
Well, there's enough to take care of this stuff another way, but my opinion.
any other public comments for economic development?
looking at fixing up the east end of town.
It hasn't been on our radar.
And some yesterday. We can just talk to themselves.
I didn't want to interrupt. Okay. I'll close the public hearing at 9:40. Discussion and possible action on NCEDC grant agreement. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve resolution 1214-24.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion second. Any other discussion?
Roll call, Mike,
No.
Jim,
Aye.
Mark,
No?
Todd,
Aye.
Sydney.
Aye.
Motion passed. Now we have a public hearing for the 2024 Mitchell County Urban Renewal Plan Amendment. Open a public hearing at 9:41. Was this published in the proper newspapers and available at the auditor's office?
Yes.
Any oral or written comments received from the supervisors or auditor?
Same as before.
Same.
I was gonna add one comment that people say that supervisors shouldn't be able to do this without a vote. If this went to the polls, do you think this would still go the same way? Oh, you do? Okay.
And this is how Iowa code is wrote. I mean, this is the way
Yeah, I know.
it's the process, so.
Yep. Any comments?
Oh, I think Rachel had a few submit,
Yes, pages were turned in, I emailed to you guys, people that were against using it for basically everything besides the roads project. I emailed those to all of you, it's available if anyone wants to look at it.
If we're gonna submit that document, the top of the document needs to be read, and all the names on the document need to be read and will be in the minutes. So if we're gonna submit that document, it's a public document, so.
It is a public document,
Yeah, so then be prepared to read all the names on it, if that's the case.
that's fine.
Okay, start reading.
All right, I'll read the ones that I can read.
And read the top two, please, so that we know what they're talking about.
Mitchell County citizens against using tip dollars for funding libraries at $173,376. Funding Mitchell County economic development at $97,750. Mitchell County Agricultural Society at $35,000. Mitchell County Agricultural Society new building at $770,000. Funding Mitchell County Conservation Roof Project at $75,000. Funding Mitchell County Parks and River Trails Project at $861,270. For a total of $2,012,396. I'll read the best of my knowledge of these. Eric Cranville, Mike Van Lisler, Kathy Branstead, Danella Klein, Caleb Cranville, Taylor Cranville. I don't know, but it's 615 West 7th Street in Samanskerd. Next one is 220 West Main in Mitchell. Jeff, something, it looks like 233 Chestnut Street, Osage. Can't read this one, 111 East 6th Street in Samanskerd. Levi Alder, Macy Redmond, Bill Struthers, Todd Wandemore. Can't read this one, 4688 Hickory Avenue, Totterville, Andy Flugie, Teresa Bergeon, Julia Crail, Mike Huseman, John Mayer, Jalissa Mayer, someone at 1508 430th Street, Samanskerd, Diane Gastiger, Ron Gastiger, Russ Nelson, someone at 3803 Dancer Avenue, Osage, John Muller, Amy Folkerts, Nick Krebsbach, Nathan Zool, Ken Pitson, Deborah Pitson, Merlin Mullenbach, Jim, someone at 2721 465th Street, McIntyre, Cole Smith, Steve Weiss, Monica I can't say the last name, 2773 500th Street, Ashley Wilberding, Jake Wilberding, Jeff, 505 East 4th Street in Sinister, Lyle Newton, Paul Yinger, Darren Volklander, Rachel Foster, Lindsay Eulenhap, Mike Mayer, Renee Roll, Nick Bublitz, 11244 Echo Avenue, Sinister, 4154 Cameo Avenue, Sinister, 2427 430th Street, Little Cedar, Tom Kenny, 1027 Maple Street, Osage, 4999 Lancer Avenue, Stacyville, Mindy Krubsback, Greg Krubsback Jr., Lieber John, 2119 465th Street, Stacyville, Keith Johnson, 402 Pleasant Street, Osage, Yoders, and 2119 465th Street, Peggy Freeman, Neil Schroeder, Les Thurno, Leroy, 425th Street, 425 South Summer Street, Sinister, Mel Schroeder, Ken Knutson, Bob Morrell, 1239 410th Street, Sinister, 4451 Hickory Avenue, Sinister, Roger Everling, 5075 Monument Avenue, Lowell Tesh, Mike Jewell, David Jewell, Kevin Kiercutter, Lynn Kiercutter, April Waldemar, Zach White, Kim Schwab, and Ross Cooper. And if anyone noticed, my name was on there, and the reason that I'm against this is because I believe we need an attorney to do the paperwork. I'm not necessarily against the urban renewal, but I am against not having someone look over our paperwork. Todd found a mistake yesterday, Jim found a mistake. I've corrected a lot of the paperwork, and I don't think I should be the one doing it. I'm not an attorney.
There will be an attorney that looks it over for the next process. All these resolutions have that on the back, and in 3, it says, let me find it. Authorized, in the middle, it says authorized to make such changes, modifications, additions, or deletions as they, with the advice of bond counsel, may believe to be necessary, and to take such actions as may be necessary to carry out the provisions. So it's never been the idea that we're not gonna have a lawyer look at this. The county attorney looked at it, and then bond counsel is John Danos.
Aaron didn't look at any of these that we just signed today. Can you guys confidently say everything in here is 100% correct?
Say that, I'm sorry, what?
Can you guys confidently say everything in here is 100% correct?
No, I can't say that.
I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about the renewal, I'm just saying I think it's in our best interest that we have an attorney do it.
And that's why we hired Planscape as far as to.
Are they attorneys?
Excuse me, we hired Planscape to do that in order to guide us through a process that personally I'm not comfortable with doing. This is their business, but it does state that after they can only take us to a certain point, and then we're gonna have an attorney to be doing this, and that is bond counsel. So
we're doing
that
a
will
bond?
happen. Pardon me?
Are we doing a bond?
No, bond counsel will do things as far as loans. Yep.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be a bond.
I agree with Rachel. I mean, last week we found out that what we was trying to do last week with the budget wasn't according to Iowa code, so.
I don't agree with that. But
Oh, you don't agree with that? Okay.
Anyway.
I just want to ask, because Lowell's here and he was an auditor for 20 years. At what point did Dorsey and Whitney or bond counsel get involved? Was it from the beginning or is it after?
Pretty much right at the beginning. They prepared the agreements.
Well, when we did A to Z rebate process plus the ballot process, urban renewal amendments for both of those, bond counsel was not part of that.
There's mistakes in that paperwork too.
Bond counsel was not part of that, so.
I'm just, you want it to be correct.
I have something. So I told you guys on March or whatever date it was previously, at a meeting that I would also be reading this letter out. So I have previously read this letter in previous Board of Supervisor meeting, but this is on behalf of the Mitchell County Planning and Zoning Commission. Good morning, Board. On Tuesday, March 19th, 2024, the Mitchell County Planning and Zoning Commission held a meeting to discuss various topics, one of them including the recommendation for or against the newest amendment to the Urban Renewal Plan. There was much discussion from the Commission regarding this amendment. Topics arose such as how were these entities chosen for funding, where will this funding money come from, how long will the commitment be to these entities and projects, etc. Kathy Showalter was present at this meeting and answered all questions in regard to the amendment. The Commission voted after much discussion had diminished, and the votes placed were as follows: 4 ayes, 1 abstained. With these numbers, on behalf of the Mitchell County Planning and Zoning Commission, I would like to present the recommendation to move forward with the Urban Renewal Plan amendment. The Commission would like to thank you for this opportunity to review this amendment. Signed and dated March 19th, 2024. That's all I had. I have to go take water tests now.
Okay. Mark, at some point, I would like landscape to be able to talk about, we're talking about the urban renewal plan amendment, so when it works for what you're running the meeting, I'd like them to have something to say to you.
Probably under discussion when we get that, if we get that.
Sure.
So is there a motion for urban renewal landscape amendment
We didn't close the public hearing.
on that?
Well, and
I mean, and so we want them to talk.
I would like them to just, before we
Close
go to the, I'd like to close public, I'd like to close public hearing, have them discuss some things, and then we can possibly approve it or not approve it.
Sure. Any other discussion from the public on?
I'm actually gonna say that I've been in touch with Ron and Kathy over the last week and a half, and I have the confidence in them. We all make some mistakes. We're not perfect. I believe they'll do a good job. This isn't their first rodeo. They've been in Mitchell County, Osage, and multiple other areas. So I had family involved with them for 30-some years, and I think they'll do us a good job.
I agree with that.
Yes,
Okay.
that Ron and Kathy need a recommendation that, Ron was there at that meeting 37 years ago for the very first TIF for the city of Osage, so he's been around the block with Jim a time or two or 100 times, many times with the city of Osage. And the Galarian, I know, Lake Hills, many other communities.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Just Keith.
I realize that the sun's setting on this particular renewal plan now, but there is a new windmill farm coming into Mitchell County, and I hope that the Board of Supervisors, if they grant them 20 years, I hope that's when your long-range plan starts. And you get your plans together of how you're gonna handle this money over the next 20 years, not over the next 20 minutes. That's all I got.
Any other public comments?
Yes.
Nothing?
Well, I don't know, I guess I just, if you two are so experts, why was we going down a road last week against Iowa code? Huh? Can you explain that? Why were we going against Iowa code last week?
Come
We had to change our budget because what you had in there was against Iowa code.
Did you ever ask them a question at any point of this process?
I am right now.
Yeah, but before?
We have been involved in Kathy Showalter from Hunting Partners. As Lowell mentioned, back in 2012, we started working with supervisors. There are many times when you're bonding that we worked with your bond counsel as well as your bond house. How you choose to fund urban renewal plan projects is a decision you do. We were hired by A to Z, not the county, to put an urban renewal plan and their development agreement in place, which you did. You approved both of those. That was for a pay-as-you-go rebate of taxes. We've done others of those in your county. After that time, we were asked to come and present to the board. Then we were asked to present a proposal. You accepted our proposal. In that proposal, it does not talk about how you're going to implement the plan. You asked us to walk through the steps of the plan, which included adding property so that you could fund the libraries. We don't choose the projects that go into the funds, into the plan. You do. That has been, it appears, a split board decision all along. We put plans in place to add the libraries. There were city-county agreements that went in front of every city council. There were grant agreements that went with attachments to every entity getting funds. I think Sydney pointed out that if it's in an urban renewal plan, does not mean you're guaranteed to use those funds that way. I think the board has approved a number of projects over the years that have not moved forward. How it moves forward once the plan is developed is a decision the board takes. And indebtedness is bonds and loans, interloan transfers between funds, or pay as you go. So we've never been approached by either of you as to how this was going to be funded.
Can I say something? In the beginning,
Excuse me, I'll get a glass of water.
okay, in the beginning, the TIF revenue that we're collecting more than what the bonds are. So it's going into this TIF fund. So you said we could just use that money to just fund things without going into debt, without paying interest.
So let me clarify.
But that is not true. You cannot do that against Iowa code. We found out last week.
Let me clarify that issue.
Okay.
And it's probably good to, as Kathy suggested, take a step back on where we've been with this process, because you understood that you were going to be having some funds, some TIF funds available as some of the debt gets paid off, as your TIF districts are generating more TIF revenue than you had thought in the first place.
Correct.
So we helped identify those amounts. You went through a process of deciding what, if anything, you wanted to do in the way of projects you might want to fund with some of those TIF revenues. So you went through that process. You directed us to prepare an urban renewal plan that would achieve that. And so we did that. We sent it out to county staff to take a look at, and didn't hear back until just a couple of days ago that there were some questions about those sorts of things. And I think a lot of what has come up within the last couple of weeks revolves around that term indebtedness. When we hear the term indebtedness, a lot of us think about our car loan or our mortgage loan on our house. Chapter 403 of Iowa Code, which is the urban renewal law, carries a much broader definition of what constitutes this indebtedness. And as Kathy said, it can be things like rebates, as you've done for A to Z drawing. It can be things like, a growing practice by municipalities with their use of TIF is to create project funds, moving the TIF revenues from that special TIF fund that's created whenever you adopt an urban renewal plan and adopt a TIF ordinance, moving funds from that special TIF fund into project funds and get them spent from there. Hasn't always been that way. More and more, the auditors that are doing municipal audits on an annual basis are recommending that practice to the cities. So we prepared we sent a sample resolution to Rachel that would achieve that. So that's another means of using TIF revenues. Another means is to borrow funds. It can be through going to the bank for a loan, can be through the formal issuance of bonds. It can be internal borrowing, finding a fund, in this case within Mitchell County, that you could borrow from and pay back over time. And yes, if you use funds that are in an interest-bearing account, then you would lose that interest. So there's also provision that says that
in addition to borrowing internally from this other fund, you can also pay that fund back the interest that it's losing, or even more interest if you want. So there are ways to provide that you aren't losing any interest revenue. You're making those payments back to internal funds. Shannon has said she's identified some funds that could be looked at. But the point is, after you get to the point of adopting the urban renewal plan, after a majority of the county board adopts the urban renewal plan, we step out of that process, and that's where you step into going to the John Danis's of the world, the bond attorneys, whether you're issuing a bond or not. You may well want to turn to John Danos to say, okay, we're ready to look at how we mechanically use those funds. We have, with the exception of Todd and Jim and Sydney, who asked the questions in their due diligence in the last couple of weeks, we haven't had the opportunity to talk with you or Rachel about the mechanics of how you use those TIF funds that are available and actually make payments. We've never been asked that question in front of the board. We've never responded to that. So I think there was a misunderstanding about how you can just spend money from TIF. You have to go through some mechanics in order to do that. And that's where, whether it's Osage, Lake Mills, Mitchell County, any of those communities where there's that borrowing going on, when it comes to the point that the urban renewal plan is adopted and you move on to using those funds, if there's some borrowing involved, that's where we step out, and the Northlands or the John Danis's step in and say, okay, here are the mechanisms that you can, here are the tools you can use, here are the options you have available to you to have the funds available so you can fund the projects you identified in your urban renewal.
And I'd like to speak to the issue of there might be a mistake. Everyone is human. We did the best that we could. You may remember when we went through the A to Z project, we found that the original work done by your legal firm, Dorsey Whitney, failed to include the property around A to Z in the ordinance, in the description of parcels to be added. It was not a big deal, but it was a human error, and it was corrected. So I'm not saying we're not above making errors. We also have asked for public information. We used the best source when we did not get questions answered from public officials. So we used sources that were on the Department of Management website. All I can say is if a mistake was made, we're human. We did the best we could, and we know that sometimes it might be what's called a Scrivener's error, just a transposition of numbers. I'm not sure. Nobody has said as to us that there are any errors. No one has responded to us. We did not hear that until today coming out of someone's mouth.
And that's why we send things out ahead of time, so other people have eyes that can look at those and tell us if there are questions they have or if there are issues that they think need to be addressed.
Well, I did research on this with a TIF attorney, and I passed that on to the board here, but nobody chose to listen to me till last week when it came out, and Rachel done some investigating too, and it wasn't the Iowa code, so
And
that's why we could not do that.
And that may depend on how it was the question was posed to the bond attorney. We had a conversation with John Dennis last week too, because we've been doing work with the Dorsey Whitney firm hand in glove for the last 40 years. And we believe we're on the same path as the bond attorneys are on the interpretation of tax increment financing, which, by the way, changes over time as the legislature changes things. I don't always find that the two major bond attorney firms in the state of Iowa agree on everything. So we try to stay current. So we had a conversation with John last week, and I can tell you that our description of what's being done and John's explanation of how this works were the same. We have a common understanding and common statements on how this works mechanically. There's no difference between our perception and John's perception.
Well, then I don't know why we were trying to do it illegal last week then.
You weren't.
Yeah, we were.
I'm sorry.
We don't know what you were trying to do last week.
Okay, well,
Based on,
oh,
based on what was in our heads on the mechanics of how that could work, there's no difference.
Yeah, I know.
What we were originally proposing to do is what you had a conversation, you're telling me that you had a conversation with John Danos, and what we were originally proposing to do is not illegal.
Exactly. And
if you follow the correct process.
If you follow the mechanical after you adopt the urban renewal plan, if you follow the mechanical system of how this works, it's all legal.
Yeah. So we were following Iowa code, and when people start saying that we're doing things illegal, I'm not gonna do anything illegal knowingly.
And we won't recommend that you.
Yes, so when that comes up like that, I'm glad you checked with John Danos, because our process was legal. It's the way you do it in Iowa code.
The mechanics of how you use the TIF funds.
Correct.
is key. That's
and it wasn't being done right last week.
we don't know how.
We don't know how it was being done. We don't know what was being discussed.
That excess money in the TIF fund is not available. It's assigned to the debt that's currently there. It's not like you can grab it. It's assigned to the $21 million worth of debt that we currently have.
It can be available with the adoption of a revised budgeted and urban renewal plan and setting the mechanics up the correct way in order to use those TIF revenues.
And none of that was done last week.
It isn't done until after the urban renewal.
Okay, well, how was it? It couldn't be in our budget then because it wasn't done. That's the part that wasn't legal.
So now, if the urban renewal plan gets adopted, now you have the opportunity to set that up
right
the right way. But there wasn't any recommendation from us on how that would be done, because
I don't know how it got in there then. I mean, it wasn't my recommendation. So, so be it.
Are there any other questions?
Do you want to explain the urban renewal plan just briefly, or what do you?
Yeah, the urban renewal plan has been created. It's been public information. It's been in the auditor's office. All of you have had the copy. Again, the reason planning and zoning was involved was because you're adding the libraries to the urban renewal area. The urban renewal area is different than your tax increment district. Tax increment funds are collected and they can only be spent within the urban renewal area. If I remember correctly, you were one of the very first counties to put all of your roads, ditches, everything in an urban renewal area. So funds can be spent, as you've mentioned, on bonds. Because the libraries were added, and maybe some of the other projects, if they're within 2 miles of a city's limits, you had to ask permission to put those projects in your urban renewal area. So the cities of Osage, St. Ansgar, Stacyville, Mitchellville, and Riceville, all to my knowledge, we prepared them, but to my knowledge, those agreements were all signed by those entities. The project descriptions are in the plan. As it's been mentioned, the projects in here are not to exceed, but because it's in the plan, doesn't mean that's the amount that's going to be incurred. That's another decision that you'll work through. So the projects then would be, there's money for the nature center, for the parks, for the water trail. There's money to pay the administration. You have hired us, you will be hiring someone to give you financial information. That is also a TIF eligible expense. So you'll see then these projects, we've heard a lot of money about your, a lot of information about your local option sales tax. The total amount of projects to be undertaken in this plan is over $4 million. The vast majority of that is the $2 million on road projects. When we started this project, we didn't even know what was going to be included. We just knew we were being asked to put a plan together. And then as you work through your projects, you told us what to put in the project. So these are the items that are in there.
A couple funding mechanism ideas are to, what you said in regards to using turbine money and put it in the project fund, which probably, that creates the debt when it's put in the project fund.
If you do it the right way, yes.
If you do it the right way. So that's one of the options. That's our original plan. The other option would possibly be, is Shannon is here, and there's a possibility that she has some money in accounts that we could actually just do an internal loan from one of those savings accounts. I believe, you may want to speak to this, but we're getting 5% interest on one of those.
4.25 or 5, depending on which bank it's in.
So we could actually borrow from that particular savings account. The turbine money could actually pay a higher rate than what your 5% is to pay the money back to the savings account, 5.5%, 6%, whatever. And then, to me, I'm wondering if that isn't more of a more lucrative way to do it, simply because if we create the project fund and use the turbine money directly like that, we're pretty much waiting for turbine revenue to come into that fund before we can actually utilize it. And there's a timing issue with the project happening and the money coming in. As compared to the savings account, using that as the borrowing mechanism, it's there already. It's more of an in and out thing, and it's more fluid. Those are just my thoughts. Shannon?
And I can just speak to what money I have in the bank. I don't know what the balance of the funds are, and as far as the council, how to do that, but I do know that I have money to cover that in savings at this time. I don't know what Rachel has for what is allocated for funds, but the one balance has not been below 4 million for 4 years. So I feel confident that the county can function without this.
It has to be figured out, yes, yes.
The details are still there, but we could possibly do that. And personally, as the treasurer, I work hard to get our interest. I'm very proud of the interest that we get every month, approximately 60,000. I would rather, if we're gonna borrow money, do it internally, and then the county can still benefit, rather than paying it out to a second entity, if it can work.
Case in point, we do similar work for the city of Lake Mills, have for 32 years. And the city of Lake Mills has their own electric and gas utility. When they need borrow money and pay for it from TIP, they frequently turn to the fund balance in their electric and gas utility fund. And a few years ago, they had a project that they wanted to fund that way. They were probably getting, this is at a time when they were probably getting a 1.5% or 2% interest on their holdings in that utility fund. Again, we prepared an urban renewal plan, city adopted it. They turned to, in that case, the city of Lake Mills also uses John Danos for their bond advice. So they then turned to John, and John prepared the documentation for them to do that internal borrowing, just that process I described a little bit ago. And he made the recommendation to them, and they adopted it, that they would pay back their utility fund 6% interest from TIP. So they would pay the principal back, they would pay that amount of interest back. So not only did they have not only did it not cost them any lost interest, they actually were able to pay the utility back extra interest. So that's one of those areas that the bond attorney can advise you on what an appropriate amount of interest would be if you want to do that internal borrowing, and he would prepare all the documentation for it.
No, I forgot one other step in this whole process is when you create an urban renewal plan, you give the affected taxing bodies the chance to comment on this proposal, on your draft. And there was a consultation meeting held with, I understand, Jim and your auditor, and no one of the invited taxing bodies showed up. That's just a formal process in it. In fact, this afternoon, I'm going to one in another community. It's part of the steps. That's one more action where public input from those who are impacted can take place.
Correct, nobody showed up.
Other questions? Is Heidi on?
She was, yes, she is.
She's still on?
She's there, yeah. She's muted, but she's.
Yeah, I was gonna ask her if we can take it directly out of TIF, or do we need to create a debt first?
She's not answering.
Well, as he said, that you create a project fund, and that's the process to create the debt. And so then the turbine money funds the project fund, and then the project fund funds the projects you're doing. That's the debt mechanism.
And you transfer the TIF revenue out of that special fund into the project fund in order to make this change.
Is she muted on our end, maybe?
I don't know. Just gonna ask for a second opinion.
But, and they can advise you on that when you get to the point of deciding how you want to fund this.
I'd like the information before I put the cart in front of the horse, I guess.
Do you want to go to the computer and try to unmute her?
This is Heidi, cool with Northland. How's the board doing? Sorry about that. I was, what was the question? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Hey, can you take the money directly out of TIF, or do we need to create a debt first?
In order to use TIF funds, there is a debt that needs to be incurred, whether it's an internal loan or some other outside financing.
I have a question. I know I was in contact with the Iowa Department of Revenue, and the TIF money that we are collecting now, isn't that designated to our current debt and that only?
That's correct. You cannot collect TIF for debt you can only collect TIF for current debt that's outstanding. You'd have to designate future, you'd have to designate future TIF through the urban renewal plan. It looks like that's what you're doing today.
But would you have to designate a different TIF district too, since these windmills are all in TIF created to pay the current debt?
So it all be because the current debt doesn't exceed what the current area is. It all kind of come from one area, but that's correct. You can't use past revenues for future debt. You'd have to be designating it for future TIF. But it's a good question, because it's all basically kind of from one area, it's all coming from one large TIF revenue.
Right. I mean, their answer to me was no balance should be allowed to be used for other projects, as all TIF dollars brought in are obligated for repayment of previously certified TIF debts. So we got TIF debt now, so all that money coming in is certified to that debt. So
Heidi, this is Ron Fiskus from Planscape Partners.
that's what the answer I got from them.
My perception is that there may be some obligations through the bonds that have been issued to pledge TIF revenues toward those. But once that payment is satisfied for the existing debt, if the county wants to take on additional indebtedness by the definition contained in 403, which I think you'll agree is a pretty broad definition, then that new debt can be paid from future TIF revenues as long as the bond terms are satisfied. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep, that is correct.
But if the bond terms are still 21 million, they're not satisfied, correct? Are they? Or are they?
It depends on the
right,
term.
But if the revenues are there to make each individual payment, you can take on new debt before all debt has been satisfied, if that makes sense.
The way that you explain it is that's already been certified to pay the debt, and you can't do anything until you reach that 21 million of TIF money, and then to satisfy that debt.
You'd want to make sure that those TIF revenues satisfy each payment each fiscal year. You know, it's not there's flexibility to add additional projects as that's coming in.
Okay.
Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kind of what I get from the county assessor too, the only way property taxes can go down in Mitchell County is if the TIF debt was paid off and all that money would be pouring into the county, and there you'd have property tax relief, which we could have in 3 to 4 years if nothing changes, but apparently things are changing, so that's gonna push it down the road. So, yes?
Only 30% of what we collect for property taxes is Mitchell County money.
Yeah, but it's still coming in. I mean, it's still a big
So the county only has
increase.
control over 30% of what people pay.
Yeah, but it's still coming in to all the other
Right.
taxes.
But I mean, it's not gonna be, I just wanna make sure people understand, you pay it to the county treasurer,
Yeah.
we don't get it all.
Right, exactly.
2 weeks later, we send 60% of that money out to all the other entities, so
Correct.
even though the people that come in and say, we paid your salary for this year.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not.
Well, some of
But
the
I don't think
meetings,
people understand it, we're just the centralized collection, and we send all that money out, so.
correct.
A reduction on Mitchell County, 10% reduction is really a 3% reduction overall, because 60% of it is even our money.
I just explain when they pay it.
Yes.
I'm just basing this on other
I know.
meetings I attend with other county supervisors from other counties, say the best thing you can do is get your TIF debt paid off. Now we got all this money pouring in, we reduce property taxes, we don't have a problem with anything.
Well, I look at
That's
Mitchell
the theory.
County as far as what's positive happening here.
Yeah, we're number 2 in the state for debt, so yeah, let's keep going.
We have a wonderful county, what we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question. You talked about I think Rachel, you've got $7 million of TIP revenue coming in.
Next fiscal year.
Next fiscal year, you've got about 21,000 in TIP debt. Are those debts callable?
They're not, I think
So you can't.
we should have one gets paid off this year, one next year. I think it's 27, 28 before they're callable. And there was a couple that weren't callable at all.
So then it's a process. You can pay them off sooner, but it's a process. It's a legal process and a lot of extra paperwork.
But as soon as that TIF fund gets to 21 million, then it spills over. You know, you just leave that in there to pay the future bond payments. And from that point on, it'll spill over.
Mhm.
So
And
3
the
years,
interest
it'll
that you're
spill.
earning on it
It'll spill over in
is
3
not
years.
needed for bond payments.
Right, then it's gonna spill over, just like where everybody else's property tax goes. Once that account satisfies the debt.
But the perception that in 3 years.
It's gonna
everything's
spill
paid
over.
off, you will still have debt on the
But
books.
But there'll be enough in that
Stay
account to
alive.
cover all the debt.
Yeah.
There'll be enough in that account to cover all the debt, so therefore it's gonna spill over.
But those debt reports want to know what debt is unpaid. They don't care if you've got the money sitting in the bank to
Right.
pay them.
Yeah,
It's,
right.
it's what's left
Yeah.
to be paid.
Yeah.
So your reports will still show that Mitchell County has
That's
debt,
debt, although it's,
regardless of how much money you have set aside to pay them. for the
yeah, I mean,
next
we don't have
6
any set
years.
aside to pay the 21 million. So, yeah, I'm just speaking from my experience of what I've been doing last 3 years, 4 years.
Question?
Did we close the public hearing or we're still in?
Still in.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
And there's a lot of taxpayers that think like I think. Just from talking to the public, I know. Who wouldn't want to see their property taxes go down, you know?
Any other public comments? Hmm. 10:23, we'll close the public hearing. Discussion and possible action on 2024 Mitchell County Urban Renewal Plan Amendment. Resolution 1215-24.
Move to approve resolution 1215-24.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
It's a second. Any other discussion?
Roll call, Todd,
Aye.
Mark,
No?
Mike,
No.
Sydney,
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
Motion passes.
A couple things, Mark, if you don't mind, so landscape, did you say that the auditor has assigned agreements from the cities and the libraries and the departments? And there's some documents that the three departments provided to show their positive economic impact to the county. So all those need to be
All those agreements
filed.
should be filed, yes.
Okay, and if you could, Rachel, I'd appreciate emailing all those to the boards, all the signed agreements, like these resolutions and the URP plan and all those agreements. I'd appreciate those emailed to the board at your convenience. So our next step is to get a hold of bond counsel. Okay. Are you part of that process to help us ask the correct questions? You are?
You certainly can.
We can be.
Yeah. All right. Then the board's gonna have to meet and discuss that portion of what we're gonna do. I mean, that's gonna be a topic, so.
Seem like another next step might be to get together with Shannon and identify the funds that are there, see whether any of those are obligated as debt reserve for existing debt,
Okay.
or something like that, just to make sure that when you talk to bond counsel, you have information about where that source could be for it.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
I guess at this point, we've completed the tasks that are included in the proposal that we sent to you that you approved. So any additional work can just be done on an hourly basis if you direct us to do that.
Okay, all right. Appreciate that, thank you. Thank you for all you've done. You've helped us immensely as far as walking through this. We're not experts at this, and that's why you were hired, so thank you.
Thank you. Number 15, discussion and possible action on Town and Country Days request. I didn't see an amount on mine, was it $500?
I didn't see an amount either.
Yes.
Last year they asked me 5.
Yes, they're asking for 5.
500, you said?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Rachel, do we do that by resolution, like with the other agreements? Is that the
Yeah.
process? Or-
I can put that together, yeah.
Okay.
I thought before we were gonna ask them to come in person, ask for the request.
Sheila messaged me at 8:25 and said she wasn't gonna be able to.
So do we have to table this to do a resolution?
I can do that for next week.
Okay, table. Thank you.
16, discussion and possible action on infill lot application for Susan. Something.
Hello, all right, so I have one application today for you guys, looking for approval, for a project site in Orchard. The estimate came in at 12,575, and she's asking for, requesting $10,000.
$10,000.
And she's gonna build a new house there, correct?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve Susan Burkholz for her infill lot application.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Roll call, Mark,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Sydney,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Todd.
Aye. Motion passes. Now we have a discussion and possible action on home base Iowa application.
All right, so I have one application for, George Loeb. He relocated here with his family, looking for the $1,000, relocation grant that we committed when Home Base I was here last summer. You guys committed to, the $1,000 incentive for veterans who would relocate here, and so, we just did the application. He submitted all the requirements, all the documentation I needed. I also worked with Veterans Affairs from upstairs, and he also supported all the documents and didn't have any concerns.
I did see it says a copy of the DD 214 military discharge paperwork. As far as, did he submit that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
The motion is our second.
I'll second.
Motion second. Any other discussion?
Roll call, Todd.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Cindy.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye. And thank him for his service.
Yes, definitely will. And then I just get a check from Rachel sometime.
Yeah, that will go through
Next week. So
Next times, next week.
Yeah.
And then as we go forward with these applications, is this something that you want me to bring like each time somebody applies for approval, or since it's kind of like a standing program? How do you guys wanna proceed?
I think before we wanted them ahead of time, so we didn't approve them 5 minutes before we looked at it, so we could go out and look at the sites.
Okay.
You're talking about the infill lot program? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about like the home base.
Home base, yeah, home base.
So I'm just like saying, so you guys have already committed, so if somebody applies and they produce everything that we need, I mean, it's a pretty simple process where they're probably gonna, do you want me to come here each time and say, okay, I got this application, or are you okay with them being approved without me coming here as long as they meet all the requirements and they provide all the documentation?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I thought there's infill.
Yeah. Okay, because this, I mean, because I went to my board first and then this board, and then in the meantime, it's just they're waiting for their money. Like, yeah, and so if we can maybe in the future, like, speed it up, you guys are okay with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Shoot us an email.
Yeah.
So,
Just give us all the
So just say,
information.
here's the information and what I'm gonna do.
So how will that, that's okay, but how will that go as far as, through the claim session? Then we're just gonna get hold of Rachel and then it'll just be part of our claims and we'll see it in the claims? So.
If you want that to be the process.
Like Todd said, an email's fine, I guess I just kinda wanna know that it's happening. And that
Yeah,
way-
absolutely.
That way when the claims come up, it's like, oh, there it is. So
Yeah.
What's the line item does that come out of?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I think we were talking about local option sales tax each time we do it, I thought.
We can list it as home base Iowa on the claim.
Yeah.
And read the.
Okay.
That would be good.
and not to be a smarty, but, for what you asked, not all the claims they don't come and talk to us about. So when we
True.
look through the claims, you know, you'll see it.
That's true, you're true, that's right.
Yeah.
Not all of them come to us, I agree with that, yes.
So,
Yeah.
I have a question. Jenny, is it always part of the process to talk to Larry?
Because it's our first one and, we just became home base at a whole like formal community last summer, and so I just thought maybe it would be important to include him just in case.
I would highly endorse that, because we have people that, like, veterans designation on their license. There's some people that tell us they're entitled. And if you look at the DD 214, you see honorable, but some of them, there's questions, and Larry can say yes or not. Some people consider themselves veterans, but the federal government doesn't. So I think it's good to keep Larry.
My process was to always be to include him, and I told him that too.
Because he's a great
Have him
asset.
sign the bottom.
So I got a question, does the process delineate between the different, rank?
We have to
Just
be
veterans and
on,
veteran.
You have to be
you
an
have to be
honorable?
honorably discharged, you can't be an active, I mean, the question comes up and I'm currently serving, no, you have to be honorably discharged to be eligible.
Because home base Iowa is based on bringing veterans back. Yep. Creating the environment.
Conditions are.
The DD 214 will clarify all of those questions.
Yes. And that's why I included Larry, so I didn't look at that before, because
I was just curious if he was part of the process, because he is a great asset.
yeah, he is definitely part of the process, yeah. And I didn't sign this one. There wasn't a spot for him, so he just randomly signed at the bottom of the application. I'll add a signature spot for him now.
Thank you.
Next time. Discussion and possible action on solar project. Last week, you decided to put it on hold, did you? Need more information?
Yeah, so it looks like you got a new
quote.
because it was appraised on the wrong building?
Well,
Is that how it went?
yeah, kinda.
Yeah, kinda. That's okay.
Yeah,
Those darn Google sites don't get it all right, right?
Right.
instead of running an extension cord from the neighboring building, we thought we'd put on our road.
Rich, do you wanna talk to him about it?
Everybody makes mistakes, don't
Yeah,
they?
it was just, they thought it was a different building, so Mark and I were out there talking to them, and
So they came out and you visited?
they came out, we visited with them and tried to figure out a good place for it, and they found out it was this building. They modified their quote a little bit.
Okay,
So I don't know what the quote is, but
25,000?
20, and it's on the roof. They didn't give us a quote from the ground, because since it's pitched to the south, they thought it'd be a lot better on the roof.
I think it's probably better on the roof, just for the simple fact that it won't get hit, and then we don't have to bury cable to the building. Everything will be on the structure and out of the way.
Looks like it takes a small portion of the roof too, man. You know what I thought?
But all the roof does is keep the rain off. So.
Yeah, but I mean, the solar panel is a small portion of the roof, right? It's not.
What are we gaining?
Well, 7-year payback?
Yeah, that was,
Was it 8 something?
Or 8.
yeah, they were being generous on that. I guess it should be quicker than that.
Should be quicker than 8 years?
And I apologize, the 8, I believe, was on the first quote, so.
So we thought we'd try St. Ansgar, since they're alliant and they get the best project.
So the Statesville shed ain't Alliant, that's Heartland?
Heartland.
It is.
Alliant has, apparently Alliant has a better solar program than
Heartland don't have one. They won't.
They might have one, but it might not be economical.
No,
I don't know. I didn't look into it.
No, they don't. They won't. Meter goes backwards, they don't care.
For you being on the insurance board, did they raise any concerns over how much we'd have to pay for the
No,
insurance
any
company?
extra.
No.
And it was what, 10,000 down or?
Yeah, 10,000 down, 15 at final pay.
Yeah. And we have money in the local option we can use for that, so. We can cover it. We wish to go that route.
I have a question. So the utility bill that you will be offsetting is paid out of what fund? Your secondary roads?
Yeah.
So the savings should be reflected in, or the cost, the expense should show under secondary roads and because the benefit will show under secondary roads.
Right.
So, yeah, however that works with local option, that would just seem like.
So are we paying it out of local option or secondary roads paying it? Because it's the secondary roads building.
Or you transfer money from local option to secondary roads for the cost of construction. And then the utility bills are less and less and less, and that's also out of your secondary roads.
Yeah.
You can decide that later, but that just popped in my mind.
Secondary road has a big budget, but it needs a big budget.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take whatever you want to give me.
Are you comfortable with coming out of local option?
Yeah, I agree with Kathy. I think if it's gonna be the secondary roads, if you're gonna take out local option to do the transfer to secondary roads and then expenses all that money.
If it needs to be, we've got money in the grounds budget that could probably cover that. And the additional installation, if you guys choose to reimburse it out of that.
I'd be good with it either way. I think it's a worthwhile project.
Because the down payment probably come out of this year, next year's budget would be, because they won't have it done by July.
I think I budgeted, I budgeted for a salt shed, so.
A full one or
Might be a little bit left.
I think it's benefiting Mitchell County and everybody that shops here taking it out of local option sales tax. And it's saving Mitchell County some money in the long run. So yeah, he's got some issues out there right now, and he needs trees and he needs salt and salt.
We'll be fine.
So,
So did you say the total expenditure was $25,000?
Yeah.
So why the 8-year payback? And maybe we could go back to them and get a 10% discount if we pay it off sooner or something.
No, that's
what we'd save on utilities.
I think that's the payback for the cost, we'll save that money back.
Save $25,000 8 years on utilities.
So,
Do we have a motion for, go ahead with this project?
I'll make a motion to go ahead with this solar project.
The motion is our second.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
I do want to say that I got a call after last week's meeting. I touched base with Rich. This person didn't really like the idea of it being on the roof because they're really trapped snow, he said. But, that's the only call I received, and I talked with him about it, and he said we'll be fine.
I received a call too, that they were against it.
Against solar?
Yeah.
Well, mine wasn't against solar. They just thought it'd be better on the ground versus on the roof. But I reached out to Rich and you were there. Yeah, was he there when we called?
Yeah.
Yeah, he called me back and you guys must have discussed a little bit about it or something.
I don't know how they're mounted, whether they're gonna be a snow trap or not, I guess.
We're-
They're big enough to.
I don't think they weigh that much.
If the winds would
That's
take
not
it
their
out of the
weight,
building,
What's that?
you know, no concern of winds or the snow or.
They
any of
designed
that.
the system, if they, the person that built the building or sold the building, they know what they've got. I guess I'm gonna defer to those people as the experts on solar and whether it's on the roof or not. The roof designed for a certain snow load, and I don't know if we've had a lot of snow ever piled up on the roof before, but they're designed for snow loads in this area, so I would imagine that calculated possibility of any snow trapped on top.
Solar panels tend to melt it off quicker anyway.
Well, I don't know how they're gonna set on there, if they're gonna have an air gap between the bottom or how they actually set them.
Any other discussion?
All right, roll call, Mike.
Aye.
Cindy.
Hi, sorry.
Todd.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Mark.
Jen.
Can I ask that we go back to number 5, because I missed it, I was called out of my office, department head in this discussion.
As far as that discussion, yeah.
I just wanted to give you guys an update. I don't know if you're following the legislation. It is House File 674, across county tiling bill. That's where individuals, right now, if we are contiguous county, if a person's county touches our county, like Floyd, Saragota, Worth, if they were to live in Mitchell County, they could come here and they could title the vehicle here. Normally, in the past, it's been you title where you live. But we're trying to be more workable with people if they're traveling. Across county titling means you can title anywhere in the state of Iowa. If you live in Iowa, you can title both wherever. But that did pass, and some of the amendments that were also on there that were attached to it was also the increase in our money that we receive from the state for reimbursement. So, for example, right now when we do a title for the state of Iowa, we get $2.50. That's what I talked to you about. That was from 98. Once the governor signs this bill, because it's passed the House and the Senate, we will get $12.50. So that's a $10 increase. Just for reference, in April so far, we've done 298 titles. So we're gonna get almost $3,000 versus a lot less. For each new registration, we currently get $1. It's gonna go up to $11. For each security notation, when somebody gets a lien on a vehicle and the bank brings the form into us, cost $10 to do that. We get $6. And we have done almost 50 of those this month. The registrations, we've done 285. So the increase,
we're gonna get 6,200 a month, approximately, extra above the 12,000 normal. It's about a 30% increase in our department on average. That goes into effect once the governor signs it. Legislation says it goes into effect January 1st. So that's a big boon for all treasurers, all counties. I'd like to publicly thank Representative Jane Bloomingdale. She was instrumental on the committee, Waylon Brown. I talk to them every time something comes through from ISAC, and they're very responsive, and they've been very supportive of the counties for this. It is an increase, but this is what the individuals are gonna pay at the counter, and the Mitchell County taxpayers will not be subsidizing that. We will actually get per item reimbursements. Kind of like for the passports, you get $35, which is, so it's a long time coming. So I just wanted to let you guys know that has passed the House and the Senate. Governor, once she signs it, I'll let you know. They're asking a lot of treasurers to go down and support it. For those of you that don't know, Governor Kim Reynolds was formerly a treasurer. So she has been very supportive of our office. So there's not a lot of concerns that she won't sign it per se. So I just want to give you guys an update on that because I was excited about that. That's big news in the treasurer's world. Secondly, I know we've talked about appointments in our office and just wanted to let you know we had an individual who lost her driver's license. She lives in Ames. She was in the area. She came in for an appointment because she checked the Ames website and the next available appointment for them was May 30th.
Wow.
So most people, they call in the morning, they can get in that day. Another for appointments as well. You know, parents, when they got their kids, they can take them out of school. They know they're gonna come in our office. They're gonna come in and have scheduled time to get it done. When they take off work, they're gonna come in. They know they've got the time frame. We are very respectful for appointments. We had an individual that walked in at the same time as our appointment yesterday. Appointment went first. We will take walk-ins, but appointments do get priority. So I just wanted to touch base with you that we are gonna get more funding starting January 1st, plus the Ames thing she told us, I didn't check it out and verify it, but she would have no reason to say any different, but I have to wait 30 days to get a replacement driver's license that she lost. So she was very excited. She paid the extra $10 convenience. When I explained to her it was $10 because she doesn't live in our county, doesn't pay taxes for convenience fee, she goes, I'd pay twice that much.
Yeah.
So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 19, meetings attended.
This was not a meetings attended, but I was given this pamphlet from the Osage Mountain Bike Club. And I believe how he explained it is they're going to become sanctioned and they're going to start giving instruction to youth and anybody in regards to mountain biking. And what they do is they actually write, I think is what's called single track. And that is a course, and it says, so once an individual becomes experienced, you can ride a mountain bike single track for fun, or it says your racing is not required, but it is encouraged, meaning it's an activity that people would come to Mitchell County and to partake in a single track event. They have a schedule here as far as what's happening throughout this summer in Scott County Park, Sugar Bottom, I don't know where it's at, Decorah, Mason City, Des Moines, Dubuque. And so from what I understand, Mitchell County will be part of that. So I thought that was kind of neat. So that's what I had.
I had a Substance Abuse Coalition Board meeting last Tuesday, I guess. Anyway, they're gonna do the tips training for bartenders. They did that a number of years back where they talked to all the bar owners or convenience stores, whatever, and it's a class on training people to watch for underage people buying cigarettes, beer. If you're a bartender, to watch for the drunks and when to cut them off, and it's like a 4-hour course, provided that the bars and whatever get on board with it. So it'll be somebody from Prairie Ridge that'll be teaching it, and they're gonna give that a shot, see if that can go. We're gonna talk about it next meeting to finalize it. Then I had a Central Iowa Juvenile Detention Center meeting last Friday in Eldora, and they're looking into solar too, and it's gonna have a 7-year return in there. solar project. It's quite bigger. I mean, they pay $1,000 a month in electricity, so we're looking into that too. And their health insurance went up 19% this year, so we're looking into other places to maybe get health insurance for their employees there. And I don't know, as far as DHS goes, there's a lot of investigations going on with detention centers, just complaints, the kids are rowdy and they try to discipline them, and then the parents complain, and I don't know, so that's an ongoing process too, but. And they're gonna update the phone system. It was 27,000, I guess. It's quite ancient, and they added the new building on, so they needed, all the wiring is there, so just need the phone system, so. How was that meeting?
Right, Iowa Workforce one, we finally got a one-stop shop company to come in and take over that. And unemployment is still awful low, everybody's still looking for people to work.
I went to Riceville yesterday to their 2024 Riceville Housing Urban Renewal meeting.
Winter management plan updates.
Do you want to do clerk report?
Clerk report.
It's okay. Clerk report, we have $1,283.92. So noted. No, winter management.
And we have two, the Iowa Egg Company, 3407 Kirkwood Avenue, Osage, and Iowa Select Lips and Finisher Farm, 4845 Kirkwood Avenue, Summonsburg.
Perfect. Public comments, any public?
Yeah, I would have a comment.
Yes.
As I listened today to all the discussion here, there's all kinds of things out there across the board, and how do we pay for all of this? I think the supervisors need to look at a good strategic long-range plan that ties all of this together. What are your objectives and initiatives for next year and following year? What strategies will you use to accomplish those objectives? Who will do what? And then what resources do you attach to them to make sure it gets done? And I think if you did something like that, your plans would all come together and roll pretty well. Just my observation.
Thank you.
I agree with that, thank you.
Any other public comments? During the meeting at 10:52.